Yeah, man. So my name is Larry Hackney, and we're talking today with Patrick Waits, and I just wanted to work with you and try and understand the environment of what you're kind of seeing from interviewees and interviewers of what people are looking for and how people are reacting to certain topics.
Yeah, 100%. Really excited to have this conversation and dive a little bit deeper into some of the subjects that we're going to be covering. I think it's really important to have these types of conversations, be open about what's going on in the market and what's going on with different businesses, so everyone can get an idea of how how businesses are looking at hiring, how businesses are scaling, and the best way of going about that. So yeah, really excited.
Great. Great. So one of the first topics we're going to talk about is really just company culture and values. And the first thing that I wanted to ask you is like, how important is company culture to job seekers, and how can a company effectively communicate its culture, during the hiring process, in the application and throughout the interview?
Um, so it's obviously, you can probably tell from the accent, not originally from the US, and the business Coltech was formed in the UK before expanding into the US a few years ago. Um, and I've seen a difference in the way that company culture is valued in the US than it is in the UK, especially as expanding as a startup business ourselves, expanding our company and looking to hire the consultants to come and work for us in particular. So one of the first questions that's always asked to me, especially in the US, by people that are joining the company is, what are the values of the business? What's the mission? And that's very, very key to people that are looking to join a company, which is, it's still valued, still looked upon as a big thing in the UK, but maybe not as much in the US. So how we've tried to communicate it is by communicating it to, these are the values of the business. This is what it means to us to be part of this company, and this is what the expectations are when coming in. So it's about setting the how businesses can communicate, or effectively communicate the culture, is by, as I say, just explaining what the values are and what they actually mean. Because some businesses can have, you see a lot of companies with like just simple words, resilience, collaboration, whatever it may be, as their values. But what does that actually mean in context to working at Coltech, for instance, or at another company? And then I suppose it's to then get that across during the hiring process. I mean, we're obviously doing this remotely at the moment, and a lot of work is remote, but there will be times when you could potentially get more people in from the company to have those conversations, whether it's in person, people can come into the office and see what the office environment's like, or if it's online. What we do a lot at Coltech is, although even if we're hiring people in the US, everyone in the UK business will still speak to those the people that are working in the US, because it's important to be one business and not separated across continents. So I suppose to wrap up that answer in a more succinctly, I go off on a lot of tangents, by the way, so be prepared. But it's about communicating what the values are and what they actually mean to the business, not just a word, but what that means and how that carries through when you work within the company. And then trying to get as many people within the business to have conversations with people that are joining, and try and integrate them into it and get an understanding of the team culture and beliefs from each individual. Because what I say as the CEO of the business may be different to what Steve says as a consultant, or what the head of engineering says may be different to what an actual engineer says about what it's like to work there. So it's to get that whole collaborative conversation going, and that's a really big key. What we're seeing to businesses that are effectively communicating their culture during the hiring process.
That's awesome. I really like what you said about how each group can kind of make the mission and values kind of their own, and depending upon the group that you're in, and the level that you're at, your perception of that mission and values may be different, which is very interesting. And so, as a candidate, what's a best way to assess that company value and alignment with their own personal values during that job search? Like, how do they take that and then assess that from role to role and organization to organization?
I think as a candidate or as someone looking to join a new company, the first thing you need to do is know what you want personally.
Yeah.
That's really, really important, because what we see a lot of, and again, I'll always, as a staff in business and having been in the industry for 15 years, and I've seen thousands of people looking for jobs. And then as a business owner looking at, for the last 5 years at Coltech, people coming to join here. And yet so many people like they want a job. So they're going to just go with wherever. Sometimes you see it that people will go wherever they appear someone's going to give them a job, because everyone's got bills to pay, inflation, blah, blah, blah. Everyone needs to get a job, right?
Sure.
But in terms of how we can match that a candidate assess a company's values and how they align, it's first of all, you need to know what you want as a person and what you're really going for. Is it that you want to be part of an enterprise company that's all set up and you can come in and neatly slog in as a cog in the wheel and just do some great work, but just be a part of that business? Is it that actually I want to be part of a startup company and scale and grow with that company and go through it? Because those joining two different companies, and you'll know this yourself, joining those two types of companies or company profile will have completely different values and experiences of working there. In one, you're going to have to wear 100 different hats. You might be a product manager, but you're going to have to do loads of other different stuff, or and it's spinning lots of different plates. Whereas if you go into a more established enterprise business or a larger company, it may be that your day-to-day routine is very similar to the next, that each day is the same. And that's, some people love that version, some people love that. So rather than sort of trying to look at everything, narrow down what the type of work experience you want, what values do you have, and then get a selection of companies that match that. And then between those companies, then you've got a much narrower choice, and you've got a company, you've got an opportunity to then to align perfectly what you want with what the companies are going to offer, rather than sort of casting the net far and wide and trying to, it's, you've got, because as the job seeker, and then don't get me wrong, it's the market. I mean, I work in staffing, so I know it's not as buoyant as it has been in the last couple of years. So there could be a tendency or an urge to take what you can get, and then we'll just stay here for a little while, and then which is fine. Again, everyone's got to pay bills, but if you're looking to actually really align that, if values, company values, and and being part of something and aligning yourself with a business is really important, and you have to take that time to make sure that you're speaking to the right people.
So it's interesting how we're getting these insights. So on the flip side, like myself as a candidate, how do I become more than just my skill set on my sheet of paper, right? Like, is it just that employers are looking for the skill set in, what's listed in those bullet points, or how can I, elaborate on those skill sets while also leveraging the individual that I am, and the ability to add to that culture? Like, do you have any recommendations for that?
I think doing things like this is really important. Having these types of conversations where obviously recording is going to be posted out, you're going to write a blog about it, or however you go about it, having something extracurricular that you can point to is good. We obviously, as part, and you was at one of the meetups previously, the Austin FinTech meetup that we did as Coltech, and we try and do as many of those as we can, embedding yourself in that community, because then it's showing the the extracurricular passion for what you're doing. Again, that's then something that shines through, rather than just a resume or, I did this job, I did this. If you can send people, actually, hi there. So, and then you don't need someone doing myself out of a job, but someone like us. But if you're looking at joining business, and we just go back to, right, these are the 6 companies that I really would like to work with, because I've seen what they're doing. I've read about them, I've heard about them from friends or whatever it may be, and these are the type of business that I want to work with, right? And then you personally reach out to CTO, director, whatever it may be, director of product, CIO, whoever your particular whatever avenue you need to speak to, and you say, "Oh, hi there, Steve. Look, I really like your business because of X, Y, and Z reasons. I'm actually big within the product space. So, I've been to these different meetups, and I'm really, really, hearing about your business matches my values because of X, Y, and Z reason." And push what your or match what your values are and your expectations in a role with what that business offers. And that's going to make you stand out a lot more than just sending someone your resume and saying, "Look, this is what I've done," because everyone's got your LinkedIn account anyway. So how I would you know, in me selling in potentially like when we're doing the recruitment side of things, or when we have done, it's well, that's what we do. So when we have done, we do it every day. But when we doing recruitment, or we're trying to make, in a competitive market, make our candidates, our, you know, job applicants stand out, it's by saying, well, look, we've got Larry here, and I know Larry personally, he's a great guy, and he's done this, and this, and he's this. His resume says this, but have a look at some of this stuff that he's done. Now all of a sudden you've elevated yourself from the masses, because it's not just about the resume, it's about the person and the personality that you've got. So I think that's really important, and you can do that by picking the right types of companies that you want to go for and targeting those particular businesses.
Interesting. Okay. So now that we've established kind of like the importance of the culture and the values of those organizations, like let's kind of pivot a little bit and then actually talk about like sustaining and carrying on those values and growth, and like how to actually grow and kind of get deep roots within culture. So how can companies actually create meaningful opportunities for employees development, and what are some best practices for implementing effective training programs?
Good question. We're going through this ourselves as a business. Every company is different, right? We're a heavily sales-based company. We're outbound. We have to try and attract the right types of candidates, the right types of clients. So how we would go about training people may be different to how you know, a software you know, a fintech company is hiring engineers or whatever may be going about that. But I think the basis of it is all the same. I think it's about having a clearly defined training program, or onboarding program, shall we say. So once someone joins, this is what they're going to go through. Now, whatever level that is, if you come in as a director, VP, engineer, junior engineer, so on and so forth, when you join, this is the process that you go through in terms of onboarding, how the days are structured, the first couple of days, first week, this is what you go through. So people then embed themselves within the culture or the thing and feel part of it, because far too often you'll see companies, someone joins, oh, here you go, Larry, here's your laptop, there's your desk, or you can sit wherever you want, really, just go and crack on. You're going to get a few emails about, you know, some of the stuff that we're doing, and then, you know, just get on with it. And more so now, even with the remote, the huge like growth in remote working, it can become isolating, because here you go, here's your work that we want you to do, get on with it. And then so it becomes difficult. So to have some sort of onboarding process that is interactive will help people embed into the culture a lot quicker. Now, in terms of development, that's, again, each company would be different. Coltech, for instance, is staffing, we're a sales business, so our training will be sales based, and then helping people find where their gaps are and helping improve that. But then it'd just be the same for an engineering business, or, you know, or whatever it may be, product managers, DevOps engineers, whatever it may be, a tech company. Right, where do your interests are, where do your skill sets are, where are the gaps, and how can we help you develop on those or help you improve? And then setting, and it's very difficult to set individual, especially in a larger scale company. I'm talking from a business of 50, you know, 30 heads, and we've got a very defined training program and onboarding process. But for any company, it's like looking at where an individual, once they've gone through the onboarding, it's looking at where an individual's gaps are and working with them to improve those particular skill gaps if they've got them.
Yeah.
So you might come up with an individual training program after that initial week's worth of onboarding, or however long the onboarding process needs to be. And then there's I think it's really important to have, especially in a leadership role, if you're leading a team, it's about coaching constantly. So you might see something happening, being able to put it up and say, like, okay, why don't you try this? Or I see you've done that, da, 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 da. And rather than like berating people, it's like, why you went through, you've done this thing, have you looked at trying it this way? Oh yeah, I have. And then trying to develop people on the job, because what we really want, we want to hire people that can do the role, obviously, but you want people to improve whilst they're working with you, and the only way they're going to do that is through not hand holding but coaching on the job. And you and I both know that sitting in a classroom and someone sort of telling you what to do is one thing, but actually doing the work and then getting at desk or on the job training is much more beneficial. So I think it's about firstly around like linking it back to the culture, and getting that right. It's about making sure that the onboarding process is interactive and people feel like they're part of the business and they're not just joining something and been sent a load of work to do, and then that's it. That will get people bought into the company a lot more. And then from there, it's about finding gaps in people's skill sets potentially and where you might be able to improve them. And yeah, coming up with an as a leader of a team, coming up with plans to help each person develop, and that might be different and that's different for each person.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's just interesting. So, uh, your Coltech personally, as you're setting up your training program, are you reaching out to your employees and asking them things of what they're looking to develop, or is it more you've set goals for them to hit, and based on those goals, you're identifying gaps? Is it basically, my question
It's
is the training kind of bottom up, or is it more top down?
It's so everyone the 90% of the people that join the business will be of sort of a junior level, and then we train the people up, um, from sort of standing start and develop them. And what we want to try and breed at Coltech is more of that organic growth, and then they bring people in and get them to grow through the company. So this is a really big topic for me. It's about organic growth, and developing individuals in the team is massive. Is everything that I believe in. So we have the onboarding, and there's basic training. Right, this is how you do this. This is how you do this. This is how you do this each
Yeah,
morning. Then in the afternoon, after we've sort of gone through that, then it's put it into practice. Go and do this. We're going to sit at a desk and we're going to do that, and I'm going to help you as we go through. And then over a period, so we've got like the first month like planned out for people in terms of how the training
cool.
and the activities that they're going to do. At the end of that month, it's then a case of each individual may be struggling in a particular area. So I'm finding it difficult to do X. Okay, well, let me put together a personal plan for you. Or we might ask the group, where's everyone struggling? Oh, well, we're struggling to do Y. Okay, now we'll do some more dedicated training on that. And then as new people join, what we try to do is get the other people, the people that have just joined who've been there for a little while, to start doing the training. So then everyone sort of learns from each other. And again, it becomes much more uh, organic learning, people learning through osmosis, seeing the right people doing the right things, catching people doing the right
Yeah,
thing is really important. Well done, love
yeah,
what you did there. Da, 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 bigging people up when they need to. So it's just all about, just coaching is a massive thing for me in particular, to make sure that the people, when someone joins, to 6 months time, they've completely changed in the way that they approach the work, and they've improved. And then it's brilliant to see that after 6 months of someone being here, they can start helping train new people that are joining, or you see each other, them giving each
interesting.
other pointers. So it's slightly
Interesting.
different than obviously maybe a tech company who need to bring in people who know what they're doing. But at the same time, there'll be businesses that want to hire junior developers and then bring them through, and so on and so forth. So that's how we try to do it
Interesting.
here.
So it's interesting, because of the fact that you guys are, headhunters and contractors, right? Like, you have this core group of sales folks they are your, in fact, your employees, where then there's this kind of ancillary set of employees that are sort of your employees, but really they're company
Yeah.
XYZ's employees, right? And so, has there ever been an appetite for you to look into developing those ancillary individuals and then presenting those increased skill sets? When Johnny joined us and he was a developer, he started off junior, but by taking this set of courses that we've laid out for him, you've improved his own skill set, and then being able to sell him as a better recruit. Does that make sense?
It's funny you should say that. So obviously a big part of what we do some well, as you know, permanent recruitment. Obviously we've
Yeah.
placed you in the past. And that's finding like experienced people to go into jobs. As the business has developed over the last few years, we're moving much more towards that project team, solution based, contractor focus, maybe like a mini consultancy, or we're positioning ourselves as an alternative to a traditional consultancy. And that's a big part of our plan in the future, is about having techies that we employ and then put out. Rather, at the moment, they're all subcontractors
Yeah.
or associate basis. So we're developing that that part of the business, and it will be something in years to come where it may be that we bring in grads from, I don't know, let's just say Texas University, and they've finished there. They come in and work on a project for us, and then we develop them, and then they go out and work with a client. That is something that we're looking into, but at the moment, it's not something that we can do just because of the size of the business. But
Sure.
yeah, that is definitely a
Sure.
part of the business plan as we scale and we pivot from the sort of traditional recruitment business that we have been to this alternative consultancy that we're making great strides into and have done some really good work. But yeah, that's definitely something that we can look at, that we are looking at.
That's really interesting. Really interesting. So, do candidates prioritize specific career advancement opportunities? Like, is there one specific course that people are taking, or is it like, do you have relationships with employees long enough to understand their trajectories of their careers? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So yes. So yes and no. So it's a mixed answer. I mean, they've said the same thing in 4 different ways, but
Mhm.
it's so we've had times. I've had times where we might work with someone as a contractor, and they'll start off as, I don't know, you know, let's just put it into, because a lot of stuff we do is around infrastructure, like a support engineer,
Okay.
and they'll come in and they'll be going as a level 3 support engineer, and then they're in that contract for a few years, and they finish that and they become an infrastructure engineer. They're in that contract for 6 months. They've learnt new skills in that contract. We next place them as a DevOps engineer. Then they're there for a year, and now they're the head of DevOps, and then they're there for a year, and then they become a CTO. I've seen that trajectory of people from the contractors that we place, because one of the big great things about working as a contractor is you're invariably going 6 to 9 months, going from place to place to place. So you're
Yes.
learning different skills all the time and picking up different things, rather than what can happen is, as a permanent employee, you may be somewhere for 3 years and you're not going to learn a new technology unless that company implements that new technology. So I've seen people stagnate slightly more as a permie than they have as a contractor, because they're going from here who's using Azure, and then they're moving here and they're using AWS. Now I've got skills in both. That's just a random example, but
Yeah.
I've seen the career trajectory of people in the contract market go quicker than it has done for people in perm. But then I've also seen people that we've placed as engineers, and then a few years later we're placing them as the director of engineering or head of engineering. So it does. It's it happens in both areas, and we have seen that career trajectory take off because of the time I've been in the industry for. You're going to see it naturally, but as a business, as Coltech, I've seen dramatically more people working in the contract space accelerate their career than I have done in the permanent space.
I love the way that you've leveraged that, because as somebody who's been in the contract space and kind of 6 month, 9 month, your resume starts to turn to Swiss cheese, and you've just got a lot of places and not a lot of longevity. But I really like the way that you've positioned to the fact that by going from role to role to role to role, you're actually expanding your knowledge base instead of it just looking like you're not staying someplace long enough.
Yeah.
So I definitely really appreciate that. And so, um, how do companies actually demonstrate strong leadership? So, like, as I apply to these different jobs, like, and I'm really looking for, mentorship and growth from my leadership. Like, what are some ways that companies can actually showcase that ability and that desire to grow those individuals?
I wish I knew. I'd love to find out. No, I suppose, joking aside, we've just talked about in one breath about contractors and moving to different places and so on and so forth. But we're
Sure.
talking about in this particular instance, we're talking about someone looking to join a company, to be there for a while and join because of a particular leader, for instance. So let's put it as a full-time employee. I suppose for us at Coltech, how we can show that to people that are joining is through, okay, well, X person joined here at this level. They've been here for 2 years. They're now doing this job. And that's their progression, and that's through working with us as a business and the opportunities they've been given and the leadership and the mentorship that they've been given. They've gone from not knowing anything about the job to now being able to manage and run a division. Or we've got people here that have joined, and now through working here, they're now opening an office in a different country. they've now gone and opened a different location or new businesses. So being able to show, and we got that again, that goes back to growth, being able to show the growth that people have had within a company is important. And then that shows good leadership. Being able to communicate, again, I'm going to take it back to us because I suppose I'm the leader of this company. Being able
Sure.
to explain as a startup, being able to navigate the business through, in the UK, 3 general elections, Brexit, a global pandemic, whatever else that, everything else that the world's thrown at us in the last 5 years, and still managed to grow and expand internationally. That, don't want to blow smoke up my own ass, but that could show good leadership. So being able to,
Yeah.
but then, I mean, so it's about being able, as a business, to explain. And it's always really difficult because I've never ever explained myself, I've said it just there, but being able to give examples of where you've managed to navigate tough times, or you've managed to develop people, or you've managed to help grow the business, or the buy-in that you've got from your employees. And that goes back to, again, the first point. So if you're looking to join a business and our values, and we talk and it seems that our values match, and you like the idea of what the company's doing, and you think it would be a good place to join, and then you speak to someone in the team and you have a candid conversation with them, they might say, no, I'm stuck here, don't do it. It's getting the perspective from other people that have worked with this leader or the person to say, you know what, yeah, he really helped me here, or she really helped me do this, or I feel like I've improved through working with X person. And if you can get that from the employees, then that's a good indication that that person's a good leader, I think.
Interesting. And so going back to the contracting, kind of that 6 month to 9 month window, like what is like what would your recommendation be for that contractor of starting that job, and then the kind of that tail of starting to look for their next job, right? If we understand that contract work isn't permanent, like what does that time frame look like?
It all depends on the length of the actual contract that you've got and the project that you're going on to. So again, you just say, right, Larry, we've got this project, this contract, and it's a 6-month gig. Okay, great. You go and join. 4 months in, whoever the leader is of that particular project, whoever's running that project, we'll have an idea of the runway of what we've got left to do. Oh, well, actually, you know what, Larry, we're probably going to need you for another 3 or 4 months, and then we get that contract extended. Or, okay, actually, work's probably going to dry up, and it is just literally 6 months worth of work, and we're not going to need you anymore. But you know that at the 4-month point. So then you can start reaching out to people and having that conversation. So that it's just it's the same as anything in any business. So if you're a contractor, the way I like to look at it is that you're running your own independent business, really. So
Great.
you've got to look at the runtime, the pipeline. So again, taking it back to Coltech, if I'm looking at, we've got to have obviously revenue generated. We've got to generate revenue, and we're like, right, we need to know 3 months in advance what the sort of run rate is, or the billings are coming, the revenue is coming in, so that we can make financial decisions about the business. So then we have to have an idea about what's coming next. So we're always pushing to see what's next. And it's the same as a contractor. Right, I've got this piece of work that I'm fully concentrated on, by the way, but it's a 6-month contract, come up to 4.5 months, about a month left or a month and a half left. I need to start finding out what's next. Is there work here? Do I need to look elsewhere? And it's just about having that forward planning. Because the worst thing you want to do is work for 6 months, the contract finishes, you go, right, now I'm looking. Because it could take a few weeks to a month to find something to the next gig. And what you want to try and do as a contractor is build up. And the good thing is as well, once you've been a contractor for a little while, you will have a network. You probably have a network anyway as a permanent employee, but more so as a contractor. You may have worked for, over a 2-year period, you've worked for 4 different CTOs, for instance. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Now, I've just finished with CTO number 4. Let me speak to CTO 1, 2, and 3 to find out where they are. Is there anything going on there? Do they know anyone? And you build up your network a lot more. So again, by being a contractor, you're sort of an independent business. So you've got to obviously look after what you're doing and have an idea of where the work's coming from. And it's no different to Coltech as an alternative consultancy. We have to know that, right, we've got this team of people here. And what we always try to do is try and keep the teams together. So if you've got a team of 5 engineers or DevOps engineers or whatever it may be, and that project's coming to an end, I'm looking at where we can put that whole team and keep it running, because obviously it's in our interest and everyone else's interest. So it's just about understanding the run rate of your current contract and where the next piece of work's coming from. That's the most important part.
Great. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. So we've already been doing this for about a half hour. Do you want to keep going? Do you have time?
Yeah, of course. We've got that. Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Got another 10 minutes or so. Not a problem.
Great. No, good stuff. So let's see here. In light of recent changes due to the pandemic, what are the emerging trends regarding remote work, flexibility, and how do those impact talent acquisition and retention strategies?
So, obviously, the pandemic caused everyone having to work from home, unless you was a doctor or whatever else. But 90% of the 90% of the world was working from home, and it did prove that a lot of stuff can be done when required at home or remotely. So that's opened up a world of opportunities, and what we've seen a lot more, especially in the UK and Europe, and a lot in the US with this. We're talking about the contract side of things of the teams. It's made staff, like, it's got no borders anymore. So no longer is it only looking for, companies in the US are only looking for US based employees or contractors, or companies in the UK, they can spread it out. So they might be looking to South America or Europe, or, in the UK, they're looking into Eastern Europe, or, for cost benefits. So we've seen a big rise in like sort of offshoring and nearshoring because of the remote work. I've also seen the ability, if companies aren't looking to offshore because there's a permanent work, for instance, or whatever it may be, they want to keep it in the US, that opens up the opportunity for more talent for businesses. So if you're a company in Austin and your pool is Austin, it's going to be a lot smaller than if it's the whole of the US. So it's given the people the opportunity to have a wider talent pool, and given people in different locations the ability to work for companies, because again, you may live in an area of the US that doesn't have maybe some of the faster growing tech companies that you do in Austin. It gives other people opportunities, a wider opportunity. So there's loads of benefits. You get a much wider talent pool is the main one. What are some of the negatives of remote working? We mentioned it earlier, isolation. People can get isolated. I think, and I know this in the case of myself, if I'm working at home, there's no schedule. There's no working hours. It could be midnight and I still just be cracking on just because I'm engrossed in what I'm doing, which isn't a bad thing, but it can, in a weird way, I've seen it and experienced it personally, actually affect my work-life balance by being at home working, because I don't have that split. When I'm here at work, it's slightly different, but yeah, when I'm at work, I'm in the office, focused, let's do this work. When I'm at home, I'm finished and I can, spend time with the family, or, do whatever I need to do, because that's my personal space. Sometimes I feel that when you're working at home, your home becomes your work, and it can actually blur the lines of work-life balance, when in that, the argument the other way is, well, actually it's a better work-life balance because you're not commuting and you can spend less time doing that, and instead of commuting I can now go to the gym, or I can now do this. So there's arguments either side, and I don't think any particular there's no one size fits all situation to anything. Whatever works for you, whatever works for you personally is what works for you. Whatever works for your organization might be different to what works for mine. And one of the things, and this is might be controversial, I get really annoyed when I see all these posts, what's like on LinkedIn, or people going out in these different debates. What's better, remote working or on site? And people say, oh, we want people in the office, and then they get berated. Oh, well, you're wrong for doing that, because well, not really. That's my opinion, and that's what works well for my organization. If you're fully remote and that works really well for you, great, carry on doing that. So I think you just have to balance. Again, it goes values, the all these different things that we've looked at. Can you everyone be part of? Can you build a decent culture in your organization with everyone being remote? If you can, great. In a sales-based business, I believe it's better for people to be together because you bounce off each other and it's less isolating when you're making phone calls and people putting the phone down and you're intending to go away all day. It's much easier to do it when you've got someone sitting next to you than it is sitting in a room on your own, right? So you can build a good culture and camaraderie that way. In certain organizations, people need to be head down and just focused on what they're doing. So it might be better to not have a noisy office around them. That's fine. A lot of our back office team will work from home most of the week because it's easier for them to do that. And that's and the way their personal lives are with their family, it's easier to be at home because they've got kids and they, it's what works for the individual. Then with the growth and development, if you've got people working remotely, can you help train them and keep them engaged and develop them? If you could do that remotely, perfect. Again, in a sales-based business like ours, it's much easier for me to catch people doing something good and congratulate them or say well done, or catch them doing something that might need to be improved if they're sitting with me. And that doesn't mean I've got my beady eyes staring at people all the time, or whatever. That's actually my wife said this to me. So just had another baby. She's like, yeah, she's got your beady eyes. I was like, my beady eyes? That's not very. I don't know if that's a compliment or not. But yeah, no, thanks. I was like, yeah, well, but I mean, it's not like you're sitting there, because I think what the sometimes the fault of, or what the argument of people being remote is because you want to want to micromanage people and watch what they're doing. But actually, it's the opposite. I want to make sure that I can help them improve. And if you're working at home and there might be something missing in what you're doing, you're not going to know that because you don't know what you don't know. So if there's someone there who could say, you know what, why don't you try this? Oh yeah, thanks. And that's a much easier conversation than over Teams, or it's very difficult. So again, if you can help your employees with their training, onboarding, make them feel part of the culture, and keep people living your values remotely, then great. That will work for your business. And then if you're able to manage people or lead your business fully remotely, then great. That's really good. A lot of the work, a lot of the management, or a lot of the conversations I have to do because of the locations of the businesses, London, Austin, and Amsterdam. There is a lot of that. But that's why I'm always going backwards and forwards from Austin to London, because it's good to be in the office with people and see that. So yeah, again, I like to go off on tangents, and sometimes my answers can be a bit rambly, but the answer is to the positives of the remote working, especially within the tech space, is open up talent pools massively. So you're not tied to having to be in a certain location. There are negatives to it that I've mentioned. It can but whatever works for you, and you shouldn't be a huge. I don't understand where the huge debate is between lots of different companies telling each other what's right and what's wrong for them, because it's the same with anything. If it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't, it doesn't, and that's just the way it is.
So how do I say this? So going back to contract, right? And there being a time frame, is there an inherent, like, the more the employee engages in the work and engages with the company, does that impact the likelihood of them getting hired on permanent, or is it more of just this is the amount of work, and no matter the amount of employee engagement, you're just kind of you're more beholden to the timeline than you are the relationship?
Good question. Two answers to it, depending on what the contract is. So we have a lot of the contracts that we get are actually contract to hire. So we want to bring a contractor in for 6 months with the potential to turn them permanent. So a lot of businesses, when they look, the way I see it is that it's like a try before you buy type option. We need someone to come in to do this work. We want to hire them. It's quicker always to bring a contractor in, because of the the quick turnaround nature of the contract market. You can get someone, and it's a lot easier to present contractors quickly and onboard them quicker than it is to onboard a full-time employee. So sometimes businesses will be like, let's get a contractor in, 3-month contract, turn them perm. But then there's other other times when they need a contract. It's like, we're doing this particular thing, building this particular app, or doing this migration, or whatever it may be. And there's a defined timeline for that work. And we don't want to hire a full-time team because we're not going to need these 15 people post this delivery of this project. So we're just going to bring in a crack team, get it delivered, and get them out. So there's two different types of contracts. So on this one, where there's a defined piece of work, and it's like, right, we need this outcome, and then that's it, and then they're gone. You're more than likely just to finish the contract to move on. But then there's other times where it's clearly, right, it's a contract to hire position. If the contractor does well, there's an opportunity to come full time. So, and a lot of the time that is communicated at the start.
Awesome. Well, Patrick, this has been great, and I've really appreciated your time. We definitely need to start doing this more regularly. I've definitely gotten some insights, and hope to share these insights with others, and hopefully they can benefit from this conversation as well.
Mate, I've really, really enjoyed it. Any opportunity I get to talk about myself and I get to rant is really I grab it with both hands. But yeah, no, joking aside, it's good to have these conversations, and hopefully it gives yourself and whoever else an idea of different types of, in my opinion, or different types of views on certain things, because it's really good to share those. So yeah, thanks for arranging this with me, and I look forward to the next one.
Dude, this has been great. I really appreciate it. Have a great day, Patrick.